What's up, guys? We had an awesome week last week. We're hoping to do it again here for week 10, so stay tuned.
Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic. This ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on GoingFor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started. That ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for two, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, GoingFor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
What is going on, guys? All right, welcome to episode 117 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can find me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We're live every Tuesday and Friday night right here on Periscope, Facebook Live, and YouTube, and streaming in all your major podcast networks and on the GoingFor2 app for iOS and Android. I'm here, as always, with both of my co-hosts. One of them is about to fall asleep. Gerson, man, you gonna make it to the whole show?
Stop making them so damn late.
It's later for me, man. You're on West Coast time, or you're on Mountain time, so you're like, what, 9 p.m.? It's 11 p.m. here.
How do you know I'm in Utah? I could be right a next door neighbor to you.
Because you're in the same exact room that you're always in.
Never know. I can have a green screen.
All right, and that laugh you hear in the background, of course, is Tim Strobel, man. Tim, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Apparently I'm more awake than Gerson, but I'm ready to go. I really like the slate this week, man. I'm looking forward to breaking it down. Yep,
agreed. It's a good slate. There's a lot of good value, but not the smash value that we had last week where everyone was playing. I think you got some options this week, so good stuff. All right, guys, let's just go ahead and just jump right into the slate since it is so late. Let's go ahead and kick it off with the quarterback position. Tim, we'll go to you first. Give us your top-tier quarterbacks this week.
Yeah, let's see. Hold on. I want to see who Gerson has real quick. He's got the same two guys. All right. I think it's hard not to pick Lamar Jackson as the number one guy this week. I also really like Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to let Gerson talk about him, but we saw what he did last time he played Cincinnati. He just absolutely tore them up on the ground. They just do not have the personnel equipped to stop the run, whether it's at the running back position or the quarterback position. Now, I'm not going to sit here and predict he's going to have another 150-yard day on the ground, but I fully expect that 30-ish points are well within the possibilities for Lamar Jackson this week. So at 7,300, that's still a pretty good value, I guess it would be. It's hard to say value when he's the highest quarterback on the slate, but I think him and Mahomes are really the only guys I think you can reasonably project to hit that 30-point ceiling that you're looking for in tournaments. So, yeah.
Yeah, I got Lamar Jackson on my list as well. I think we all pretty much do. He's going to be a pretty popular play. Gerson, you got Mahomes on your list. Give me a little bit about him coming off injury. What do you think of Mahomes?
I think he's fine. I mean, we saw last week he kind of, when they won the game, he celebrated, and I would have a heart attack if I saw my franchise quarterback celebrating when he's supposed to be taking it easy, But this is the MVP, man. I mean, he's coming back. He's 7,000. That's what really intrigued me the most. He's a $7,900, $8,000 quarterback. To get him at that price, along with probably stacking him with Kelsey or Hill, or I like Sammy Watkins this week. I know a lot of people don't like Sammy Watkins, but against Tennessee, they're not a good defense against the pass as they are against the run. So I want to target this game for that reason as well. People always, are kind of I guess you say scared off players returning from injuries. There's two players on this slate that I don't think I'm going to be scared of doing that same situation, but Patrick Mahomes definitely up there, 27.75 over under. I mean, total implied total. And I mean, I think I wouldn't be shocked if Tennessee actually kept it pretty close. I can see this game being probably 32 to 27. I don't know, somewhere around that range. I mean, they have it a pretty high over under for what Tennessee can offer. But I like this game.
All right, yeah, I think I'm with you. I think Mahomes is healthy enough that we can just plug and play with him. The only other guy that I had on the list, and I mean, it's kind of we're going kind of chalk here because we're going with the top 3 priced guys on the slate. But obviously, Jameis Winston is obviously in the mix there. We're going against Arizona. We know we can get bad Jameis sometimes, but I don't think Patrick Peterson is the cornerback that he used to be. At least he was last year. So I don't think you're going to be worried about him too much. Obviously, you can stack him with good Godwin and Evans. It's a little more risky than the Lamar Jackson and the Patrick Mahomes. I think they're a little bit safer, but I think the upside is definitely there with Jameis Winston as well. All right, let's move down into the mid-tier a little bit here. And Gerson, we'll go to you first. Who are some of your mid-tier plays this week?
I just want to touch on that. We're basically, all the quarterbacks I'm looking at that we see, they're all chalk. So if you really want to get GPP, you're going to have to take off the top 5 own quarterback and play other guys. But I think this week is just eat the chalk at quarterback. If there's any other week that I've ever seen, but this week definitely it. So we got Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, Jameis Winston. A guy coming back from an injury, came back before the bye week, was named Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees is in a great matchup against the Atlanta Falcons, the second worst defense for pass overall. Drew Brees, man, he's breezy, right? Like, he came back, 373 yards and 3 touchdowns, didn't even miss a beat. Michael Thomas projected to be the highest projected total points for me as a overall player. That's even higher than Christian McCaffrey. Last time I remember seeing that, Michael Thomas actually scored 40 points. So, I mean, if I have Michael Thomas, I'm going to have a lot of Drew Brees. So him at 6,700 versus Atlanta with the implied total of, I think they're the highest one on the slate, right? Next to
I think the Bucks and Cardinals. I think
are the they're number 1.
Yeah, so 32-point total. I mean, you're gonna have to have exposure to that game. There's 2 games on this slate that are really, really kind of the shock, I guess you can say. But I'm gonna have a lot of Drew Brees this week. I'm kind of overweight on Drew Brees, Kamara, and Thomas.
Yeah, I love Drew Brees as well. I actually had him as one of my top plays there, but I saw you had him at mid-tier, so I left him for you. But and we also know that, just history tells us that the Falcons and Saints games are always high-scoring games. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I know last year's games were pretty high-scoring as well. So that's going to be a good game to target. Tim, who you got for your mid-tier?
Well, I mean, I really like a couple of guys you mentioned. I think one guy we haven't mentioned yet is going to be Kyler Murray. We pretty much all year long have been targeting quarterbacks against Tampa Bay. They have a good run defense, but a terrible pass defense. I don't know any reason to go away from that this week. As Gerson mentioned, or at least I think he did, it's the current highest over-under game on the slate at 52 points. Arizona is projected for 23 points. I know they, get. I've even heard some talk about using David Johnson out of the slot this week. So they have a lot of good options that you can pair Kyler Murray with. He's only a couple $100 less than some of the guys we've talked about, who I think are probably better plays. But if you need a couple $100 in your lineup, or you want to do a little bit more of a contrarian stack on the other side, versus I think Jameis will be more popular, I think I like Kyler Murray as well.
Yep, agreed. I'm on Kyler Murray as well. And then just one more quarterback that I'll bring up is the guy on the opposite side of Drew Brees, Matt Ryan. I believe he will play. I haven't heard official word yet, so make sure you check your on Sunday to make sure he's playing. But I just looked it up. So last year, Atlanta versus New Orleans, Matt Ryan had 43.16 DraftKings points against them last year. Then had another game against them with 25.68. So obviously, with this depressed price that he has right now, I think he's 6,100 on DraftKings. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good price that you can get that cheaper exposure than the Drew Brees, Michael Thomas stack. You can go with like a Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley stack, something like that, to get some exposure to that game as well. So I love Matt Ryan this week as well. All right, let's move down. Go ahead.
Dan Quinn confirmed he is expected to play.
He is playing? All right, good deal. All right, Gerson, let's go ahead and go to you then. Give us some of your value quarterbacks this week.
Okay, so just to go back on what I said before, we're talking about a chalk quarterback. There are some good contrarian quarterbacks. I'm just going to throw them out there. I'm not going to explain who they are. Matt Ryan is definitely one of them. And Rodgers, Daniel Jones. And Brian Hoyer, I know you don't know whether you feel comfortable playing Brian Hoyer, but he is a value. Those are the guys that I'm looking at.
Brian Hoyer could be this year's Brock Osweiler and Albert Wilson.
All right. It's funny because I was watching that game when Brissett got hurt, and someone was asking me, who the hell is the backup? I'm like, I don't know, but I know he's a good backup. He's been in the league around. And then it came in Brian Hoyer. I was like, I told you. But anyways, so my other quarterback, I think we mentioned most of my quarterback. You talking about a value quarterback?
Yeah, just a value. Let's go down to
Ryan Tannehill. Obviously, if I'm targeting, I always do this no matter what, whoever Patrick Mahomes is playing, because Patrick Mahomes throws the ball so much that the other quarterback on the other end always gets his value point. Ryan Tannehill last week he tore it up. I believe we mentioned him too, right?
Yep, we did mention him.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, 28 points, he had 331 yards, a touchdown, only 2 interceptions. But the thing is, we keep on forgetting that Ryan Tannehill can run. I mean, he got 36 yards and a touchdown, so he has that rushing upside. And at 5,100, you don't need him to do too much. I have him projected at 18 points right now. He's supposed to be 7.5% owned. But I think he can be a pretty good pay down spot. Because if you want to get all these guys like Michael Thomas, Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, I mean, you're going to have to find a way to save money, right? And, I mean, while we're paying up for quarterback on those other guys, Ryan Tannehill is probably the only quarterback that I feel comfortable paying down because he does have a couple good passing options to throw it to. And they're projected for almost 22 points against the Kansas City defense. I don't fear that Kansas City defense either, and they're at home.
Yep, I agree 100%. I think Tannehill right now might be my cash game quarterback, believe it or not, just because I can pay down at quarterback, pay down at tight end this week, and squeeze in a bunch of studs this week. So he might be my cash game quarterback. I haven't finished building my lineups yet, but that's where I'm kind of leaning so far. Tim, let's go to you. We only have 2 values between the 3 of us, so go ahead and take the last guy here, and then we'll move on to the next position.
Yeah, Gerson mentioned him briefly, but I do want to talk about him a little bit more, and that's Daniel Jones, a.k.a. Danny Dimes. I do think that this is another week. I mentioned him a couple weeks ago against Detroit. He did really well, and I think this is another week you play him. The Jets just right now just look terrible. I mean, they're just getting beat by absolutely everybody. I know that Evan Ingram is out, Sterling Shepard is out, but I still think he's a good play. Obviously, I'm going to be mostly stacking him with Golden Tate, and then I think you can run it back with some options on the other side as well. I'll mention those later, but I think he's also in play this week. Also, somebody I think can probably get you some yards on the ground. I don't exactly think that he's going to be, lighting it up like Lamar Jackson or anything, but I do think that he has a little bit of a rushing floor, and for only 5,700, I think he makes an interesting kind of contrarian tournament option. So I do like Tannehill. I want to mention that. I agree with you. I think he's probably in consideration. There's definitely going to be some, high dollar players you're going to want to fit into your lines this week, and it seems like he's an easy way to make that fit. But I think I actually like Daniel Jones a little bit more.
All right.
I'm going to do it because someone has to do it, but Danny Dime is not Danny Dime no. He's more like Danny Penny now. Definitely hate Daniel Jones in this call. The only reason why I'm doing it because there's a trend every single time I make fun of a quarterback. So yeah, Daniel Jones, you suck.
He's trying to reverse jinx him. Let's say he sucks and he's going to blow up. I love it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move into the tight end position. And also, just real quick, if you're in the chat group right now, unfortunately, I have no visibility to the chat group. So, Tim, I know usually you're on the Facebook channel. So if you have anybody in there commenting, if you can kind of call them out. For some reason, my chat feature that connects me to YouTube and Facebook and Periscope is not working, so I can't see any of the comments right now. So I apologize for that. Tim, if you see anything that's good, you can go ahead and bring it up. Let's go ahead and move into the tight end position here. And I think tight end this week, if I'm not mistaken, is probably pretty much pay up or pay down. But we'll go ahead and look at the top tier guys. Gerson, who do you like in the top tier?
Sorry, you told me to look up these messages, so I'm laughing at some of these guys that are going crazy about plays that we're calling and plays that we're not. bunch of clowns, I tell you. At the tight end position, okay, so tight end position this week, I think is can really break the slate. I think tight end and the wide receiver position is the most important position this week. But for me, pay up is Travis Kelce. I mean, this guy has 13 red zone targets. Damn it, 13 red zone target and 0 touchdown. I mean, that would shock you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I was shocked when I saw that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. Because either Travis Kelce, he's a red zone monster. You know, he's a very good. But I mean, when you have Mahomes throwing him the ball with no luck, maybe it's not ideal no more. But I think Mahomes coming back, I think Mahomes going to put on a show. And the way he's going to put on a show is using Travis Kelce. And he's priced down for what we usually get him. I mean, he's been in the 7,500, 7,000 range.
Yep.
Right now, he's 6,400. So, I mean, while he's projected for almost 18 points for me right now, and I'm gonna try to get him. He's still highly owned. I mean, 40% ownership. There's only one guy that's higher owned than him, and I'll have Jeff mention him because I don't really want to mention him. So, yeah. Actually, there's 2 tight ends that I don't want to mention. But yeah, Travis Kelce's my guy.
All right, good stuff. Tim, do you have anybody besides Kelce in your top tier?
No, I think it's him, and then the next nearest guy is a mile away. So we can just move right into the mid-tiers and values.
I would just want to mention one guy because there is one guy that, I mean, I guess he could technically be a mid-tier as well, but Austin Hooper going at the Saints. The Saints they struggle a little bit in the middle of the field. They're 19th DVOA versus the tight end position. We know it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think Hooper will be definitely contrarian. I don't think he's a cash game lineup player, but I do think he can be a GPP. He has a tremendous upside. He is, I think, still the number 1 tight end in fantasy right now as far as points per game. So Hooper is definitely in play for sure. All right, let's go ahead and move to the mid-tier, Tim. What you got?
Yeah, there's 2 guys I like in the mid-tier. One of them I haven't heard a ton of talk about, and that's going to be Gerald Everett. One of the best ways to attack Pittsburgh is with the tight end. With Brandon Cooks out, I know they're expecting to see more Josh Reynolds, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some more tight end work, some 2 tight ends, and bringing them in here. He's 4,500, so he's a little bit more expensive than some of the cheaper value guys, and I don't think you can project a whole lot more volume. But I think that he's got more upside than some of the guys we're going to talk about. We saw the game against Seattle, he had 23 points. The game against Atlanta, he had 10 targets as well, 15 points. So I think if you're looking for somebody that's a little cheaper than Kelce, it's going to not carry as much ownership, but still could have a 20-point type day. I like Gerald Everett. I think that he's going to get more work this week. I'm not going to project 10 targets for him, but I think you could reasonably say 7, 8 targets there.
Yeah, I think.
And then the other guy I had in the mid-tier who's kind of borderline value is Jonnu Smith. I like Jonnu Smith. Obviously, the 1 week he kind of went off. I got burned because I didn't have as much exposure as I wanted. But I've always kind of played tight ends against Kansas City. I feel like you said, they leave the middle of the field open a lot, and he's somebody who's athletic enough to get open. Really, I mean, we mentioned with Ryan Tannehill that you're just going to be targeting a lot of the Titans' passing game in this game. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Derrick Henry as well, but I think that the Titans are probably going to get behind and have to throw to keep up, and I think that they're going to give up a lot of passes over the middle of the field. So he's $1,000 cheaper than Everett. He's a couple $100 more than some of the guys we're going to talk about here in a minute, but I think you could also reasonably project, 5 to 7 targets for Jonnu Smith. He could easily fall in for a touchdown and more than pay off his salary.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm trying to look up Everett's last stat line because I believe it was a bad game, the last game that he was out. So he had 3.5 points the last time he was out, so it's kind of leaving a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But like we've mentioned before, recency bias, you can't always go off of that. You got to look at the matchup sometimes, and I think with Brandon Cooks out, I think Everett can definitely step into that role and be a big time player for sure. So good call on that. Yeah. What you got, Gerson?
And he had a bye week, so people definitely forgot about him.
Yep, 100% agree. All right.
I wanted to mention Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews in the last 2 games hasn't really, been the Mark Andrews we known, The reason for that, he's been in 2 games that are very non-script for him as a catching tight end. They've been ahead in both games, so it really helped out other positional players on their team. The other thing one thing that does worry me is that he was only out there on 30% of the route run for tight end, so it kind of worried me a lot. I want a little higher number for him, but overall, he's still in a good matchup. He has the best matchup versus tight end matchup chart against Sean Williams on Pro Football Focus. So, I mean, good matchup, but he is $5,000. So Austin Hooper, Kelsey, and Andrews are both all the top plays, like the higher price plays. And then Gerald Everett and what's his name? You mentioned Tim. Sorry, Johnny Smith, a great play. I like Johnny Smith a lot, actually. Not too high on Everett, but it is a good call, though, seeing that they always struggle against the middle.
That's interesting to me because Cincinnati has actually been pretty good at covering the tight end. Like, for how bad that team has been, they're bottom 10 in terms of points given up to tight end.
Interesting. So, I wonder who they played.
Like, that's who Gerald Everett played last time he played. But yeah, in terms of games given up to tight end, man, they're toward the bottom. So I'm surprised by that.
Blame it on Pro Football Focus.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff could be right though. They probably haven't played a lot of quality. How did he do last time they played?
Andrews?
Yeah. He had 14. Okay, 8 for 90 or 6 for 99.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that game. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, still that's a pretty good for a tight end, But
yep.
I think there's one guy that I had on my sheet. Let me get my sheet real quick. Mike Gesicki. That's the guy I actually didn't want to mention. I have to because he's my only other mid-range call. Oh, the other guy is the other guy. You can mention him, Jeff.
Yeah, I'll bring him up.
I want to hear how anybody's gonna break this down. Mike Gesicki. I mean, this guy. We got touted by my favorite person in the whole damn world, Evan Silva, that he's on the rise, that he's ready, that here comes his time.
That hurts, Gerson. That hurts, man. He's your favorite person, man? I thought it was me.
Oh, sorry. You're my best friend. 15.5 points last week. Got 6 targets, 6 receptions, 95 yards. But what we really won. We know the reason why he's so highly owned this week, besides his price, $3,100. It's because Preston Williams, how did he get hurt?
ACL, I think.
ACL, neck, or what? Okay, ACL. So Preston Williams will be out. It'll only be Devontae Parker and then a bunch of other scrub wide receivers. I mean, I can name them, but I don't really want them. Albert Wilson.
Chris Conley. No, he's on the Jacksonville Jaguars now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Jakeem Grant. And can't even remember the third one, but I don't even care about that. Oh, Alan Hearn.
Yeah.
There you go, Alan Hearns, yeah.
God, I am terrible for naming those. Sorry, guys. You can turn off the podcast now. But I like Mike Gesicki. This guy was a combine freak. If you go back and look at his combine, he did have all the athleticism, tight end, whatever. But overall, he's probably going to be sadly, he's going to be one of my higher owned tight end because of his price. It allows me to pay down, allows me to pay up for all other positions. But there is one more guy that I really, really love a lot, and I'm going to have probably more than the field.
All right, so I'm going to bring up the other guy you didn't want to talk about, and that's Mr. O.J. Howard. He's been terrible this year. We know it, but so has the Cardinals versus the tight end position. I mean, when you have terrible versus terrible, something's got to give, and I'm going to give the advantage to O.J. Howard. Last week, Mr. Ross Dwelly, he had 4 catches for 30 yards against this Arizona team, and they still had George Kittle there. So if Dwelly, who no one's probably ever even heard of, can get 4 catches against this Cardinals defense, I think O.J. Howard can do some damage at his price point. You can't really pass him up. Cardinals are just that bad against the tight end position that we can't really ignore him. So O.J. Howard is my other guy that I wanted to mention. And Tim, do you have anybody else that you wanted to mention before we get to the values?
No, I think that's it for mids.
All right, let's move to the deep values here, Gerson. I know who you want to talk about, and I think we all have them on our list. So go ahead and mention who you're talking about.
Rhett Ellison. I mean, this guy is starting tight end for the New York Giants. I mean, that's as good as we can advertise him. But no, I'm just kidding. This guy, he's not like athletic. He's not like amazing or anything. But he is one thing. It's almost as cheap as a $1 ticket to a movie theater. So $2,500, man. Rhett Ellison. If there's one way you're going to be able to pay up at every other position, is through getting Rhett Ellison at your tight end position, hoping that he gets targeted and he gets touchdown. You know what, though? I mean, as much as this guy sucks this year, when he gets opportunities like 7 targets, 3 receptions, 30 yards, that's 3 for 3, that's 6 points. I mean, I'll take that for a $2,500 tight end.
Yep.
And he even had a flowchart touchdown against the Arizona Cardinals. Cool, I'll take it. But this is the New York Jets. I mean, I can't remember the last time I seen a team, a franchise go out and spend so much damn money on a defense, and then all of a sudden, the whole defense is like hurt. Yep. I mean, I don't know how many. I haven't even checked the injury report, but I know their secondary. They're down to like the worst 4 cornerbacks, and Jamal Adams basically. I don't think Jamal Adams really gives a shit anymore because he didn't get traded, and he said that his owner backstabbed him and whatnot. I mean, I wouldn't be amazed if he's just going out there and not even playing hard, but definitely like Rhett Ellison. But oh man, I'm only doing it to pay up all my other positions because if I'm not paying up for those top 3 guys and Kelsey, Andrew, and Hooper, more than likely I'm going straight to Ellison.
Agreed. I know you had Ellison on your list as well, Tim. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that I like Gesicki a little bit more than I like Ellison, even considering the $600 price difference. I think if you can find the money, I would do it because I think he's got a higher ceiling. I think they probably have similar floors, probably even similar touch projections. But I think one of the best ways to get to Indianapolis is with the tight end. He's certainly got more of a rapport with Ryan Fitzpatrick than he ever did with Josh Rosen. So
good point.
I think if you can find the 600, I would definitely try and get there. I read he's he's in the top 5 or top 6 in tight end targets over the last 3 weeks. So like I said, I think that's more of a ceiling play. But I also completely agree with Gerson that Rhett Ellison, pretty much that $600 may let you move up to the next guy you want, and if that's what it takes, if you're saying, okay, this is my lineup, it's perfect, I'm going to go with Rhett Ellison, make everything else fit, go for it.
Yep, agreed 100%. I think that's the guy that can be the piece that can get you the Christian McCaffrey or the Michael Thomas or probably even both of them in the same lineup with Rhett Ellison in there. So agreed 100%. All right, guys, quick commercial break. We come back, we'll do the receivers in the running back positions, so hold tight.
In the unpredictable world of fantasy sports, when all hope seems lost and chaos and confusion rule, one hero will rise. And change everything. GoingFor2.com. Because no one remembers the extra point.
Alright guys, welcome back. I'm here with Gerson and Tim, and we're about to break down the running back position for your DFS Week 10 lineups. So let's go ahead and kick it off with the top tier running backs. Tim, we'll go to you first this time. What you got for your top tier?
Yeah, I mean, big surprise here. It's Christian McCaffrey. I know some people worried, he might have a knee injury, but he's just on maintenance mode at this point. He's still going to be the same Christian McCaffrey, and he gets a much better matchup this week against my Green Bay Packers. I know he's 10,500. I think on both sites he's 10,500. But if there's anybody that can pay off that salary, it's him. I definitely think he's somebody you want to have in your cash games. I know it's been a big point of emphasis this week. Are people, I got to fade Christian McCaffrey. He's too expensive. If you want to, lower your ownership in tournaments, if you want to, not go all the way in on him on that, I completely understand. I think there's some good pay down options we're going to talk about. But I don't think you can fade him in cash. If he ends up going out for 40 points, which we know is well within his wheelhouse, you're going to obviously be wishing you had him because I don't think even the next guy we have on the list here has a 40-point realistic ceiling. So, I think if you're playing cash this week, you're going to want to find a way to get in McCaffrey.
Agreed 100%. All right, Gerson, let's go to you. Who do you have for your top running back besides Christian McCaffrey?
It's Alvin Kamara. Mario. This guy is awesome. I mean, I love playing him. I traded for him in my dynasty league. I love the player he is, and I think in this game against Atlanta, high-paced game, it's going to be a very good situation for him. Kamara now been off for, I believe, 4 weeks plus the bye week. So, I mean, overall, he's rested. He's ready to go. They didn't want to rush him back. He said that he could have played the last game, but he didn't want to. They didn't feel like they needed him, and we said it on the podcast. They didn't need him to beat that game. So overall, Kamara should get the full workload. I'm not worried about a limited role or anything. 32-point Vegas total point. Overall, Atlanta, the worst or the second worst? I can't remember. Top three, I believe. Atlanta. I can't.
Atlanta's second worst.
Oh, that's actually pretty good, huh? Okay. Oh, no, that's just... Okay, but anyway, overall, Kamara should be in a good workload. 8,200. That's pretty cheap.
Yep.
For the guy that we're going to... About Kamara, I mean, if you fade Christian McCaffrey, make sure you lock in Kamara. Don't be stupid and not have one of these two guys. That would be... it would blow my mind if I see a roster without one of these two guys. But I love Kamara this week, so I'm going to be all over him. 18% ownership right now, so a lot of people will be too.
Yeah, I have both those guys on my list. Tim, you had a few more guys in your top tier. If you can just, not break them down too much, just give a quick recap on those guys you got in your top tier as well.
Yeah, real quick. I like Saquon Barkley. He's obviously a significant discount over Christian McCaffrey. With Evan Ingram out, I think he's going to be used even more out of the backfield than normal. Aaron Jones, I think this is a return to week for him. This whole year, we've pretty much been targeting running backs. Or I should say running backs have been the better play against the Panthers than wide receivers.
Yep.
I think a lot of people are going to be playing Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and I think that this looks like an Aaron Jones week to me. I know some people are worried about obviously Jamal Williams getting in, but I'm not saying he's going to have one of his 40-point weeks, but I think I read of the last 8, I think it was, or last 6 40-point performances, it's 2 for Aaron Jones and 4 for Christian McCaffrey. So I definitely think that he has that type of ceiling and obviously a $3,000 discount over Christian McCaffrey. So he's definitely somebody I'm going to want some exposure to in tournaments.
Yep, agreed. I'm with you on that one as well. So I'm going to go ahead. Y'all took all the top tier guys, so I'm going to go ahead and move into the mid-tier range here. And my top mid-tier guys, Mr. Mark Ingram. We've already kind of documented how bad the Bengals are. I think I said on my Tuesday show that the Bengals, have played 7 games and they've given up 11 either RB1 or RB2 games. So that means they've had games with multiple RBs go off in that game. I think when the Niners played them, we actually had 3 running backs. We had Jeff Wilson scored 2 touchdowns. Mostert had a receiving touchdown, and Breida had 126 yards rushing. So they're terrible against the run, obviously. They're going to run Mark Ingram, into the ground here, and I think that he's going to put up a ton of points for you. So Ingram is my top mid-tier value. Gerson, let's go to you. What is your mid-tier value?
You said Mark Ingram?
Yeah, right? Mark Ingram.
Okay. Sorry, I was falling asleep there for a second.
my voice does it to people. I can't help it.
Nah, I'm just kidding. So I think at mid-tier this week, I'm going back to the world of Jalen Samuels. Jalen Samuels, this guy's he's like if we want to be exact, he's a tight end, not a wide receiver. But he was a tight end in college, and he's acting like a freaking running back / tight end in the NFL. I mean, last week he got, I believe, 10 targets, right?
That sounds more than 13.
13 targets.
Yeah. Got 13 targets, 13 receptions, 73 yards. I mean, he didn't even need rushing yards to do anything. I mean, overall, this is more of a, what do you call it, a DraftKings play. I don't know his price on FanDuel, but if it's anything more than 6,500, 6,000, then yeah, I would consider him. But I have him projected for almost 18 points right now. So I think in this game at 6,300, he should be able to get his amount of his opportunities. I don't really think, well, I know Connor's not going to play. They already said he's out. And then what's his name? The backup. Oh my goodness, I forgot his name. It's not Snell. It's the other guy. Hudson or no?
Trey Edmonds.
Trey Edmonds, yeah. Edmonds, sorry. Yeah. I always get him confused with the linebacker for another team. I can't remember. Buccaneers, I think. But anyways, yeah, Jalen Samuels was right there for me against the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams they're coming off a bye week. Everybody got to remember they did get what's his name, Kyle cornerback. Best cornerback. Jalen Ramsey. Shit. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey. So I was thinking, for some reason, I was thinking Marcus Peter. He's gone too, and Akeem Talib, he's gone too.
Wake up, Gerson.
Yeah. I need a Red Bull. But anyway, so yeah, Jalen Samuels right there for me in the mid range at 6,300. His ownership is going to be really low too. I don't expect any ownership for him, like 7 to 6%, maybe 9. But I'm going to go contrarian way for my second or third running back.
Good stuff. So y'all took all of my mid tiers, so I'm going to just jump right into my values because I want to mention my boy from last week, my sick call of the week, Mr. Devin Singletary. He did have that big game that I was expecting him to have. So I think that he now has become sort of the chalk this week a little bit with this matchup against the Cleveland Browns. His price, of course, has gone up quite a bit now because he is now the lead back there, and this is a great matchup for him. I think the Browns are 23rd DVOA versus the run, so you're looking at a game that he can definitely get some good points here. So Devin Singletary is my early value guy here. Tim, we'll go to you next. Who do you got for your values?
Well, before we do, I wanted to give a shout-out to Garrett in the chat. He mentioned Nick Chubb. I don't want to skip over that. I do like Nick Chubb a lot this week. Buffalo is 30th DVOA against the run. We saw last week that even old man Adrian Peterson was able to run all over them. There is some concern that Kareem Hunt may eat into his snaps a little bit, but I still think he makes an excellent play at 7,000. Gives you, savings over some of the guys we talked about. And then another guy at 7,000 I want to talk about is Marlon Mack. I don't think we've talked about him yet, but with the Hoyer starting at quarterback and playing against the Miami Dolphins, especially playing at home as a favorite, I think that this could be one of those games that they just give Marlon Mack all the touches he can handle. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw 25 touches for Marlon Mack this week at 7,000, and that's just really rare for anybody to get that kind of volume. Obviously, he's had, that kind of volume. Like last week, he had 21 carries, and he only had 8.9 DraftKings points. He's not the kind of guy I usually like to play on DraftKings, but this is the matchup we all look for. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Who's playing against Miami Dolphins? Are they at home? Who's their running back? Play that guy. So I don't think we can skip either one of those. I think they're both plays. And then one other guy I want to mention for 600 less, I kind of mentioned it briefly earlier in the show, is Derrick Henry. The Chiefs are one of the worst matchups for one of the best matchups for tight end. For running backs. I'm losing it too, guys. Sorry.
It's late.
Without Jeff, he makes us do it on a Saturday night at 11 at night.
No, it's all good. It's all good, Jeff. Okay, so let me get back to it here. Kansas City is 28th DVOA against the run. He's 6,400 on DraftKings. Again, somebody that doesn't get a lot of pass game usage, but I think that they're going to, again, give him a ton of volume this week. He seems like he kind of goes back and forth 1 week versus the last. For last week, he did score a passing touchdown, so I'm kind of hoping he can get another one this week. Again, he gives you some, savings over some of the guys we've been talking about. So those are probably my favorite mid-tier options. And I'll let Gerson talk about some of the values.
I like it. And I like the fact that you brought up the Bills not good against the run, because everyone just assumes that they're a good defense, that they're good against the run, but they're actually not. They are a good defense overall, but against the run they struggle. So that's a good point there. I like that. All right, Gerson.
One of the things I always look for is teams that are good on one side and bad on the other, and that's one of my favorite examples. Buffalo is 5th DVOA against the pass and 30th DVOA against the run. So when you see a discrepancy like that, what teams, smart teams anyway, I don't know if we consider the Browns a smart team, but smart teams anyway should game plan to run the ball against the Bills.
Yep, agreed. And it's kind of the same thing with the Bucks. It's the opposite way, though. They're actually number 1 DVOA versus the run, where they're 26th ranked versus the pass. So similar situation, just the reverse there. So good stuff. All right, Gerson, let's go to you now for the values.
It's called funnel defense, but okay. So we have a question from the chat. Randy, I'm going to butcher his last name, Rajasambot. Mr. Rogers, whatever. Anyways, he asked about Le'Veon Bell. I'm not too high on Le'Veon Bell this week. I don't think he's going to... If he plays, he's still, kind of lingering effect from the injuries. But the New York Giants ranked in the middle of the pack versus the run. against running backs. And overall, the 20-point Vegas implied total doesn't really fit my mold for a running back. And the Giants, I think, will be ahead. He's 6,900. I'd rather have Marlon Mack for $100 more, or even Aaron Jones for $500 more.
Yeah.
Or even Derrick Henry for $600 less. I mean, for $400. I can't do math right now.
It's Saturday night, man.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be out drinking, man. I ain't supposed to be doing math. But anyway, so I'd rather have all those other guys, Randy. But for my value, I have, well, we're going to say it, right? We got to start off with him. The guy that finally has broken out in the last two games. I mean, been waiting for it, wondering if the coach was going delusional or what's going on. But they cut Mike Davis. They put Tarico in to do what he's supposed to be doing. And David Montgomery is now finally breakout is here. Last game, he had 2 touchdowns, 40 yards, 14 attempts. Of course, we love the touchdowns. That's what we want out of a running back. But the game before that, against the Chargers, he had 135 yards on 27 attempts for in a touchdown. I mean, he averaged 5 yards per carry on that game, too. And those 2 touchdowns last week were against a very stout defense, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is it. This is the breakout we've been waiting for. He's going to be highly owned. I believe he is the third highest owned running back, 18.7. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Mitch Trubisky, you got to do something, man. I mean, if he doesn't do anything, that's the reason why Montgomery will fail this week.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's the only way I can see Montgomery doing bad. And this Detroit defense, run defense, it was stout last year, but this year it's kind of
terrible this year.
Falling off a lot. But this year, I love Montgomery. I'm going to be all over him. He's going to be probably my favorite play. No, he is my favorite play of the week. I'll say that.
All right, good stuff. I love Montgomery as well. I think he's the same price as Singletary, right? They're in the same price range.
He's 300 more.
300 more. All right, good stuff. All right, Tim, let's go to you. You got, I think, one more guy in your list that we all have. Go ahead and talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, man, Gerson stole my thunder a little bit there because I was going to say that David Montgomery was my number 1 value running back of the week, but obviously he loves him too, so it's not too shocking there. The other guy I'm sure you alluded to, which I've been hearing a ton of people talk about this week, is going to be Ronald Jones. Obviously, he's getting the start. He's going to get, he's supposed to get the bulk of the carries for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's going to get a matchup against Arizona Cardinals. We mentioned they're one of the highest. I think they're the second highest implied total at 28 on the week. And you can run the ball against Arizona, so they're not only going to be, volume, but quality volume at that. He's my second highest projected value at running back behind David Montgomery. I will have a lot of lineups that have both of those guys in it. I think that Singletary, Montgomery, Ronald Jones, those guys are the ones you're going to want to mix and match in your lineups to avoid all of the other high-priced guys. So I'll have a lot of exposure to them, though a lot of people will as well. But I think it's for good reason. I mean, it's not too often you can reasonably project 15 to 20 touches for a guy for 5K or sub 5K in the case of Ronald Jones. So I don't think he's a lock that Jalen Samuels was last week because he just doesn't get that passing game usage that we're looking for on DraftKings.
Yep.
But like I said, you can reasonably project 15 to 20 touches for him at 4.3K. So I know I've seen some people this week calling him a lock. I don't think he's a lock, but I definitely think he's a really strong play, especially for your cash games.
All right. Yep, I agree 100% with that call as well. Is that it for the values, guys? Is there anybody else we want to talk about before we move on to the wide receivers?
I got one more guy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, David Johnson, baby. While this Tampa Bay defense is a stout defense against the run, I think what they're going to do right now, since they traded for Kenyon Drake, they are probably going to use him more of a runner, and they're going to use David Johnson. As we know, the Cardinals have tried to use a 4 wide receiver set, but unfortunately, they don't have a 4th wide receiver, right? I mean, they just don't trust Andy Isabella. They don't trust Demarius Byrd or something like that.
Keenan Johnson.
Pharaoh Cooper.
Oh, Pharaoh Cooper. Yeah. So I think they're going to use David Johnson as probably a third or a fourth wide receiver. As we know, he's one of the best pass catching running backs in the league. I mean, I believe in 2000 when he had that breakout season, he was like the number one overall, like even higher than wide receivers for catching the ball.
Yep.
I mean, this guy has great hands, and if you don't believe me, go look at the Lions game when they played him, and he did he dove into the end zone going backward with a touchdown catch. I can't remember if it was a Lions game, but this guy is just a great wide receiver, a great running back / wide receiver basically, and he's 5.7K on DraftKings. So on a site that we rely a lot of for pass catching running back, 5.7K, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him. The field right now is at 12.5. I think I'm going to be a little bit higher than that because it's just for 5.7K for David Johnson. I mean, when was the last time we saw that price for him?
Yeah, that's a good price for him, definitely. All right, so that's it for the running backs. Let's move into the wide receivers, and Tim, we'll go to you first. I think we have a lot of the same guys here at the top tier as well. Go ahead and talk about one of those guys.
Yeah, not shocking. Gerson mentioned earlier in the show, top guy for me by a mile is Michael Thomas. I've pretty much played him almost every week. I think every week that he's been on the main slate anyway. His best matchup he's had in a little while, and it's hard to project any wide receiver for more than 10 targets, but I think you can pretty much lock him in for 10 targets this week. He's actually one of my top. I think he's either 2 or 3 in terms of overall value at wide receiver, and he's the most expensive guy.
Yeah.
So I mean that says a lot about a guy that's 8,300. It's going to be difficult to fit McCaffrey and Michael Thomas if you're going to be paying up at quarterback. But I think especially in your cash games, you're going to want to find a way to do it. His volume is just so projectable that I think you have to find a way to do it. Gerson mentioned earlier in the show he has him projected higher than Christian McCaffrey. I have him just below him, but we're talking within a point of each other at a $2,200 discount on DraftKings.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if, like I said, you projected him to be one of the best overall values on the whole slate. So you got to find a way to get Michael Thomas in your lineup. He's going to be chalky. That's what Gerson mentioned earlier. There's going to be some chalk you have to eat on this slate, and I think Michael Thomas is one of those guys.
Yep, agreed 100% there. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game, and he's going to be one of the top plays in that game. So for sure, I agree there. Gerson, let's go to you. Who do you got for your top?
Disclaimer: I lied to everybody early on saying that Michael Thomas was my highest projected positional player. It's actually CMC, but ooh. Anyway, love that call, Michael Thomas. I'm gonna have so much of him. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have over 50% of him. It's just that's how good in the matchup he is. He's proven he's the best wide receiver this year, hands down. Overall, after that, you're gonna have been doing it every week, and every single time there's a good matchup against the Cardinals or Tampa Bay. Fortunately, they're playing each other this week, so yeah, we're kind of in a pickle here, are we? But Mike Evans, I'm gonna mention 2 of them. Mike Evans and Godwin, they're both great plays this week. There's no really bad matchup, good matchup. I don't mind Patrick Peterson. I think he's a good cornerback and all, but I don't really think he's a shutdown cornerback like a lot of people think he is. Sure, he'll have his game sometimes, but I think this week I'm going to go more Godwin this week with him, as Mike Evans had a back-to-back Giants game, 39 points, 45 points, but I think Godwin in the last 2 games been very average. So I expect people to be like, oh, well, we're going to chase Mike Evans. And right now, I mean, kind of sucks, but what I just said, but 18% for Godwin and 16% for Mike Evans on ownership. So overall, we'll see how that plans out tomorrow, but you're going to want to target that game. This reminds me of what we did last week, right? Tyler Lockett or Metcalf.
Yeah.
You should have played both of them, because the matchups were there. But this week, I think the matchup's there for Mike Evans and Godwin, even though this is much, much higher pricing. But, I mean, you do the differential on quarterback. I don't think Wilson was pretty effective last week,
Winston
right?
was the top quarterback last week, top price.
Yeah. I mean, and Jameis is 6,800, so you're saving a little bit of money. And plus, there is some values, like Ellison, that allowed you to pay up for 2 wide receivers and then maybe Montgomery and I don't know. You really have to be creative this week to pay up for these stacks.
Yep. Agreed. So in the interest of time here, I'm just going to mention the last two top guys that we had as a group. I had Tyreek Hill. I think Gerson's got Tyreek Hill. Obviously, a good stack with Patrick Mahomes, we mentioned earlier. And Tim has Cooper Kupp. I think a great matchup there as well, especially with Brandon Cooks being out. I think more targets go Kupp's way. Let's go ahead and move into the mid-tiers now, Tim. Who you got for your mid-tier mid-tier receivers?
Yeah, I got two guys on my list here. First guy is Golden Tate. I mentioned him earlier in the Danny Dimes section. With no Sterling Shepard, no Evan Ingram, you're going to see more targets funneled his way. He lines up kind of all over, but he's going to get a good matchup against the Jets pretty much wherever he lines up. And then one of my favorite plays on the week this week is going to be Christian Kirk. He's 5,200. We've mentioned you want to target Tampa Bay with wide receivers. They give up more wide receiver points than any other team, and usually by a large margin. And he's really the only guy I think they will target really down the field consistently. Since he came back from his injury, he's been getting a great target share. I think he had something like 10 targets last week, and he's only 5,200. So I'm going to have a very high exposure to Christian Kirk. He had 5 targets last week, 11 the week before. So, I mean, his last 3 games, if you follow the trend, 12 targets, 5 targets, 11 targets, 5 targets. I think he reasonably could see another 10-plus target game here. So for 5,200, that kind of volume, you just got to lock him in.
Love it.
Right.
Yep, I love it. That's a good call. I had a Tate on my list as well. Gerson, there's a guy on your list that I'm looking at right now that I need you to sell me on. Mr. OBJ for the Giants, man. You got to sell me on this one. Why you like him so much?
Price. OBJ is going to be shadowed by Tre'Davious White. I get it, but there's certain narratives I believe in the NFL, and one of them is force feeding wide receivers for sure. We heard it before. I mean, many quarterbacks have said, "Oh, I'm going to force feed the wide receiver." Next thing you know, they get fucking 15 targets, 14 targets, not 25, 15, 14. I mean, unless you name Brandon Marshall, that one week he had like 20 something. That was crazy. I think he's going to get fed. 6,100. You're going to get him a very low owned at 6.7. This is a GPP play, guys. Don't be dumb and go and play OBJ in your cash game because that's just abysmal. But I haven't projected for 16 points. So 6,100, 16 points. I mean, that's not 3 times value, but you know OBJ, he can break one and go one for the house. And one of my notes here, and it's a very important note, OBJ got mad this week on Instagram. He got called out saying that you can talk about my game, but you can't talk about my girlfriend. Girlfriend called him out for a happy birthday shout out, and he got all mad. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll put that in my notes. Yeah, why not? OBJ, man. I mean, last week I was on Jarvis Landry. I think this week I'm going to be on OBJ, but it's just to be contrarian and be a GPP play. He's going to be in my GPP roster. He's not going to be like a top highly owned play for me.
Yep, good stuff. I like that. So I only have one more guy mid-tier that I wanted to mention, and it's Calvin Ridley. If you want some cheaper exposure to that expensive, game with Drew Brees and Michael Thomas, everything there, Calvin Ridley, he hasn't done much the last 2 weeks. I mean, but he is getting a target still. He had 7 targets last week. 2 weeks ago when they were coming back from their bye, and then 6 targets against the Rams. So he's still getting the targets there. I think Matt Ryan coming back helps him. So I think that Ridley might find the end zone this week. He hasn't found the end zone now in 3 weeks, so I think this might be the game that he finds the end zone. And again, cheap exposure to that game is going to be a very high total. So Ridley is my other guy that I liked as well. Tim, is there anybody else you want to mention before we move on to the values?
Yes, there's one guy. He was on Gerson's list. He's on my list as well. Last week on the show, I told you I thought that I really liked DJ Moore over Curtis Samuel. I think that ended up being the right play, and I think I'm going to go right back to DJ Moore again this week. He's just getting so much value. It's another guy right in that mid-5K range. Based on my cornerback matchup chart, I think he's going to be matched up against Kevin King. I said last week you wanted to target Kevin King. You always, he's the guy, he's the matchup you want, right? I think that Jaire Alexander is probably going to get Curtis Samuel. I still think Curtis Samuel is a good play. But once again, I think I like DJ Moore just a little bit better.
Yep, good stuff. Go ahead and move into your values too, Tim, while we're on it.
Okay. One guy. Well, again, this last week I was wrong on this. I'm going to try not to be wrong 2 weeks in a row. We'll see. And that's going to be Jamison Crowder. I like Robbie Anderson as well, but I think that it's just gotten to the point where Sam Darnold is just really struggling to throw the ball down the field.
Yep.
And so this is going to be a game where I think he's going to force feed Jamison Crowder again. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Robbie Anderson breaks off another long run. We've seen that I think his name's DeAndre Baker has just been terrible in deep ball coverage this year, giving up deep shots to pretty much anybody he plays against. But just because of the sheer volume, I think you got to consider Jamison Crowder. I mentioned earlier I wanted to play Daniel Jones. I wanted to play Golden Tate. If you want to run it back with somebody from the other team, I think that Jamison Crowder makes a great play. And then I mentioned Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. So those are kind of my cheap value guys.
All right, good stuff. Gerson, you got a guy on your list too that I want to hear a little bit about, Mr. Sammy Watkins. Talk about him a little bit.
I think Sammy Watkins is just basically based on Mahomes coming back. A lot of people are going to be really excited to play Tyreek Hill. I think if there's any week that you really want to be on the opposite side, it's going to be this week. He's actually coming out as the play for me in my optimizers to stack with Patrick Mahomes. I have him in 150 rosters. He's, 63 rosters. I don't know if I would pay him that much, but I could adjust that for sure. But overall, Sammy Watkins projected for almost 15 points at 5.1 times 5.1K. I think I'm going to try to get him in my exposure because obviously if everybody's on Tyreek Hill and you're on the other side, we've seen how that works out. I mean, look, Remember week 1? 49 points? Yeah. So, I mean, overall, Watkins, it's just a gut call for me, but I'm really on him for the reasons of being constrained on GPP. But he's not really a cash game play for me, just a straight-up GPP play. But he's 8.9% ownership, so people are actually seeing him. So I was hoping I would get him like at 5 or 3%. That's not happening no more.
Yeah, it's the good stuff. I like that too. I like that pivot off of Tyreek Hill because he will be the one that everyone kind of goes to. I think Watkins is a good contrarian play for sure. I had a couple guys on my list that we haven't talked about yet. I'll mention them real quick so we can get to our stacks this week. I have A.J. Brown. He's now become my favorite value, I think, because Corey Davis is listed as doubtful. So that means all those targets that Corey Davis got last week, it's all going to go to A.J. Brown now. He's a big play receiver. Playing Kansas City, we've already talked about Tannehill and having to pass a lot, so I think Brown gets a ton of volume. He's the kind of guy that can take one to the house at any given point. So if he's getting a ton of targets, plus that big playability, give me that all day. So I love me some A.J. Brown. Tyler Boyd, just based on volume alone, I know it's a tough matchup. He's got a new quarterback. Finley's going to be throwing him the ball, but Boyd still gets a ton of targets. I think he had 13 or 14 pretty much the last couple of weeks. He had 10, 11, so I think Boyd is a good play just based on volume. And then we mentioned him earlier, Mr. Devontae Parker. I think that he's also a value now that Preston Williams is no longer playing because he's out for the rest of the year. Parker's going to get all those Fitzgerald. I always say Fitzgerald. Those Fitzpatrick bombs is all going to go to Parker now. He's just going to just bomb Parker with all these deep balls. So if he catches one or two of those, you're going to love the Parker's value there for sure. All right, guys. I'm kind of rushing things along here because I know it's getting late. We're already at an hour, so let's go ahead and get into our stacks of the week.
And now, the stacks of the week.
We're not going to talk about defense?
Yeah, for real.
I forgot defenses. I did forget defenses once again this week. I slipped right over it. So let's quickly do the defenses, and then we'll get to our stacks.
Hold on, guys. Here's the update. We haven't told anybody, but on New Year's, Jeff is going to launch his site again, but it's going to be called GoingFor2, and we don't believe in defense.
Yes.
But defense, I think my top guys, there's two top plays that I'm playing, and if it's not for those two top plays, I'm paying all the way down. Colts and Raven. Those are my two top defense.
All right. Tim, what you got for your defenses? Anybody else?
Completely agree. I think it's kind of like tight end and defense are the same thing. You either pay all the way up or all the way down. Ravens, Colts at the top, and then Steelers and Cardinals at the bottom. I really like that notation that your guy made on the website this week. about how as much as we target Jameis in the passing game, we also like to target him with defenses because he's prone to those errors. They're only 2,200. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is the week that the Cardinals, they don't need much to pay off that salary. So if you're looking for another way to save some salary this week, I think you can pay all the way down. So I certainly think the Steelers for $400 more, $300 more, have a much higher ceiling.
All right, good stuff. The only other one that I had, and it's more of a contrarian tournament play, is the Buffalo Bills versus Cleveland. That offense is just terrible. They can't block anybody, so they can rack up some sacks, and I think Baker Mayfield's turnover prone as well. So the Bills is another one that I like. All right, now we can do our stacks. Gerson,
Wait, what about the Brown defense?
You want to mention the Browns? Go ahead.
Yeah, Browns defense at 2,500. I know Myles Garrett is suspended, right? But I think against the Buffalo Bills, what's his name? Josh Allen can throw a couple picks, but 2,500, that's really cheap. If I can get some points, and he projected pretty high for me on my model. 7.8, almost 8 points for the Browns defense. That's almost that is 3 times value. Yep. So I like the Browns defense this week. That's just a gut call for me, I guess.
No, I've seen them as well. So Browns definitely are playable for sure. All right, go ahead and give us your stats. Go ahead.
One more thing. Okay, last thing, I promise, on defense. There is at least a decent chance that Matthew Stafford does not play in this game. For that reason, I am fading all Lions. And if it turns out that Matthew Stafford does not play, I have not been really a fan of the Bears defense all this year. But this might be the one time I would play them. 3,100 at home. And they might get a matchup against Jeff Driscoll. So if there was ever a time to keep an eye on injury news Sunday morning, that might be the one. That might be the one defense I might have to lock and load if that occurs.
Yep, agreed 100%.
Keep in mind.
Yep, that's a good call.
Driscoll blow get to start. Who would it be?
I thought it was Driscoll, but
yeah, I think it's Driscoll. Yeah, I think it's
Driscoll. He's no Brian Hoyer,
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm pretty sure it's Jeff Driscoll that's going to get the start there if it's not Matt Stafford.
Is it sneaky if Stafford does start, and then could you play him as a GPP play against the Bears defense?
Stafford,
Ooh.
I think you can. I think you really can. I think if he plays, it's definitely a tournament play. It's a tough matchup, but I think that he has that upside for sure.
I don't think anybody will have him. You'll definitely get him at a low ownership.
Yep. And I think Stafford leads the league in average depth of passes, and I think there's all kinds of air yards that he's just chucking the ball over the field. So if he's playing, I think he's definitely playable in tournaments.
And he better play because I have him in my season long, and there ain't no other quarterback in my waiver wire.
Play Jeff Driscoll.
There you go.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, that was my bad.
All right, let's go to stacks now. Tim, I'll go to you this time. Give us your stack of the week.
Stack of the week is, let's go Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and running it back with Jonnu Smith. Nice. I know some people are worried about Pat Mahomes coming off that injury, but I am not worried at all. They wouldn't put him back there. He's their MVP, face of the franchise. He wasn't ready. They wouldn't put him out there. He attacked Tennessee through the air, so I'm going to be all over Patrick Mahomes this week. You can stack him with Hill or Kelsey. I think they're both great options. And then Jonnu or A.J. Brown on the other side.
All right. And Gerson, I changed my stack of the week because you had basically the same one that I had. So give me your stack of the week.
Oh, did you? I didn't remember you seeing yours. Well, yeah, you changed one spot, but Winston, Godwin, Evan, and Kirk are my stack of the week. I have a strong feeling that they're going to be this week. Russell Wilson, Metcalf, and what's his name? Lockett.
Yeah, like you said, I just changed one spot. I just changed my quarterback. I just went from Jameis Winston to Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray, Christian Kirk, Godwin, and Evans on the opposite side. I think that's still I think Godwin and Evans get so much volume that they're definitely obviously a good comeback. And Kirk, I think he had a bad game last week, and he's been injured for a little bit. So people kind of forget about him, but he is definitely Kyler Murray's go-to receiver. So give me a little bit of that as well. All right, guys, it's super late, so let's go ahead and get to our sick call.
And now, the sick call of the week.
All right, Tim, kick us off this week with your sick call of the week.
Sick call of the week is, I mentioned him earlier, we're going to talk about him. It's Kareem Hunt. his first game back off suspension. They already said he's going to have a role, and we've already mentioned how you want to target Buffalo on the ground. So I think he's going to be expected to get about 10 touches this week, kind of take over that Hilliard role that we've seen before. If he gets a goal line touch, he'll more than pay off his min $3K salary. So I'm definitely going to have some tournament exposure to Kareem Hunt this week.
All right, good stuff. I like it. All right, Gerson, we're going to go to you next. Who do you got for your sick call this week?
This week, I'm not going to lie to you guys, full disclaimer, I think I am coming down with a sore throat. So I think I am getting sick. And this week, I'm picking Tim Strobo as my sick call of the week.
Yeah.
His name is actually Cole Beasley. He's going to be my sick call of the week. I think his price is very kind of underpriced for my taste. But overall, if we want a sick call, we want him to get target. And Beasley tends to get a lot of targets, especially with Josh Allen. 7, 6, 13, 10, 9. He's gotten targeted before. 4,100. Facing the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns defense is not as stout as people think. And you're going to get him at like 1%, 2%. I have him projected for almost 12 points, so I'll take it.
Nice. I like it. All right, so I kind of wrote down 2, and I was trying to make a decision between the 2 of them before we got to this, so I'm going to go give you the one that I chose, and then I'll go ahead and give you the one that I didn't choose. I actually chose Darius Slayton. I think him and Danny Dimes have got some good chemistry they built up in the offseason, in the preseason, and we've seen it before when a couple guys are out in that lineup, he looks to Slayton a lot. He is a big play receiver. He's fast, he's big, he's good red zone target as well. So I think Tate takes the underneath, gets probably more volume, but Slayton has that big play ability, and he could get the touchdowns as well. So Slayton is my guy. He's 4,200 on DraftKings. If you stack him with Danny Dimes, I think you got a pretty good low-owned stack. The one guy I wanted to mention, and I had some good stats on him, that's why I wanted to bring him up, and that's Myles Gaskin for the Miami Dolphins. And this isn't really about Myles Gaskins being really good. It's about Kalen Ballage being really, really bad. I mean, he averages 2 yards per carry so far this year. He has 12 targets on the season, which is, pretty bad in a sense, but 12 targets. He's only caught 3 of them, which is bad, but he's also tied for ninth in drops on only 12 targets. He's dropped 3 passes already. So, I mean, that's just terrible. You can't get much worse than that. So, Myles Gaskin, I think, ends up being that pass-catching running back out of the backfield. I actually had him ranked in my top 50 for rookies coming out for Dynasty. I think Gaskin's got a little bit of juice. I think he's excited to get into this game. He's got some explosion. Not saying play him a lot. I might just play him in one line just to see what the hell he does. I actually picked him up in my Dynasty League just to see how good he is. And I'm kind of excited to see how he plays. And it's a good matchup, so I think Gaskins is a good contrarian, super contrarian, ultra contrarian play if you want to put him in your lineups for sure this week. All right.
Think?
What was that?
You think?
Yeah, it's going to be super low owned, probably 0.001. I'll be the one guy that has them in all the lineups.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's go around the room. And before we get out of here, Tim, tell us where we can find you at.
Always find me on Twitter at Keto DFS. That's Keto DFS. And the best place to find us is always Facebook group, the DFS Roundtable, a.k.a. the Fantasy G Podcast.
Good stuff. All right, Gerson, give us where we can find you at.
Same thing Tim said besides his Twitter handle. I'm at the Fantasy G Pod. You can find me there. This week, we basically did the show today, so there won't be no show or anything. But, go ahead and hit us up there. We're there. Jason's going to give it, I don't know if he's going to do it tomorrow. I know he has a pretty busy weekend, but does his cash game calls. I usually post up my exposures or who my quarters are. Last week, the quarters did very well. But, yeah, you can find me there.
All right, good stuff.
And I do want to give a quick shout-out to Jason for his weekly chalk check. Definitely get in there, get a vote. I think that helps everybody get an idea of what everybody's on. So thank you, Jason, for doing that every week.
Yeah, I like that. It's pretty cool to see what everybody else is on, too, and you kind of look at some of the guys you probably weren't thinking about. So that's definitely a cool thing that he does every week. So definitely check that out, guys, in DFS Roundtable on Facebook. Of course, you can follow me, as always, on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Every Tuesday and Friday night, you can find me here on the Armchair Fantasy Show and at GoingFor2.com. That's a wrap.
Go Pack, go!